From beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, you are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Show, and I do appreciate you spending your time with me. Today, my guest is someone who, if you've watched the show, of course, you're going to recognize. It's Mr. Alan Mosley, who hosts The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley and is a consummate cynic and my dear friend. So, welcome to the show again, Alan.
When the Sherry Voluntary Show calls you and says, "We would like you to be a guest," you say, "When and what do I need to wear?"
You wore a suit, though. Like, I wouldn't have
I did.
suggested that.
I wore a suit. We don't just
That's,
do this for any old program.
I don't know, it's too highfalutin for me. I'm more low rent than you. That's.
Well, when we do sports ball, we're wearing t-shirts
Yeah.
and yeah.
That's right. Sports ball, too, which is great. With Alan and Mike Meharry do a sports show. And, I mean, I don't even like sports. And I like sports ball because you guys are funny together. And, I like to listen to the back and forth when I listen. I don't always listen because it's sports, And I don't understand
It's
half of what y'all are talking about, so.
It's the only show I know of where the entire premise of the show is making fun of people who don't like your show.
I mean, that's so you two. Like, that's so Mike and Alan. Well,
Yes.
I would recommend everybody check out Sports Ball, especially if you're into sports. Like, you're really, really going to enjoy it. And of course, Mike Meharry's podcast, Godarchy, which is amazing. I mean, to me, that's one of the most needed kinds of podcasts, I think, in all of libertarianism. And that is because so many Christians are Christostatists and so little time. Christostatus. That's my word for them, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah. So, anyways, the thing that inspired this episode was, as always, we had an amazing phone conversation, and we talked about Bill Kristol, of all people, now calling himself a libertarian, dang it. And, I mean, of course, we had a good laugh at that, ha. And then we started talking about the libertarian moment, this phrase that gets, bantered about every time Libertarian Party people talk, like almost the libertarian moment when they get excited about a candidate. And so I think this is quite interesting that we had already planned this, and then Bill Weld announced that he's going to run for president, of course, as a Republican, which I love to. I kept telling my Libertarian Party friends, this guy is a piece of shit. Like, he is not, he's had 2 years now. He's learned a lot about libertarianism. Yeah, right. He's learned how to talk the talk to reel you in. This guy is not a libertarian. So, anyways, I wanted to discuss with you that idea of the libertarian moment. What say you, Alan Mosley?
Well, it's not surprising that you had a lot of friends that are party folks that were defending Weld, saying that he's a good representative of libertarianism, because they don't understand what libertarianism is either. That's why they keep their all capitalized and we keep ours little. But you mentioned Bill Kristol at the very beginning of the program, and where his comment came from is, of course, he's a never Trumper, right? He's a hashtag never Trumper. He's a neocon. And even though the neocons actually have a pretty significant amount of influence in the White House, you think of Abrams, you think of Pompeo, you think of John Bolton, of course, everyone's favorite mustache.
Oh, jeez.
But that's not enough for the neocons. That's, having significant influence over policy and definitely over foreign policy. That's not enough. They want the seat too. And so they're still never Trumpers. And Bill Kristol, who's a never Trumper, unabashedly, whatever that means, he the comment that it's because of rhetoric that Trump espouses that he finds himself becoming more and more libertarian. And what really drives us insane is he actually used a little L libertarian too. I mean, in his mind, now whether that was a mistake or not, in his mind, he would never leave the GOP to go join the Libertarian Party, because what kind of idiot would do that? But he genuinely believes in his own mind, like his own policy thinking, that he's thinking more about libertarianism because he thinks that Trump is pushing the party of conservatism, the GOP, whatever you want to call it. He thinks that Trump is pushing it I don't know what direction. I don't even really know how the paradigm is defined. I guess he
Yeah.
thinks Trump is pushing it to the left, or the alt right, or is the alt right left?
I
I
don't
don't really
know.
know how those.
I don't think anybody
Yeah,
really knows what Trump is doing. I don't think Trump knows what
yeah.
Trump is doing.
Well, I mean, he's a puppet like any of them ever was. I mean, sure, he's all mavericky as they used to say on Saturday Night Live back when Palin was in the
And
news
don't forget
cycle.
McCain.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. Um, but
Sorry.
you're and Kristol's not the only one. I mean, you've heard you're my favorite political pundit, Ben Shapiro. He's made similar comments that he's more and more
Yeah.
libertarian minded as he sees the direction that a Trump-led GOP is moving. And but again, I should be angry about all that, but I'm really not, because is it really a surprise that these mainstream folks either A, don't understand what libertarianism is, or maybe more nefariously B, purposely misconstrue it?
Yeah. I I'm always curious as to why they want the title libertarian. I mean, every politician that I've ever interviewed, and I did a few on the radio show especially, every one of them, every Republican came up to me and said beforehand, "I'm actually a libertarian." I'm like, "No, you're not." Like, and it would play out in the interview, like, this is why you're not a libertarian. But they really want that title, right? So I'm
Mhm.
wondering why they want it if we're so niche, and there seems to be a certain coolness, at least to them. They think there's a coolness in being libertarian or something. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's because conservatism is dead. I mean, conservatism as it was known.
Mm,
The old GOP is long since gone.
yeah.
The neocons took over decades ago at this point, and they haven't looked back. So if you're thinking like the conservatism of Robert, Taft, if you're thinking of the conservatism of Barry Goldwater, that if you were a Goldwater conservative, I mean, just absolutely check all the boxes. You are old school. What was mainstream conservative? You wouldn't win an election. I
Right.
mean, you wouldn't win an election. You wouldn't win but here's the thing, though. Not only would you not win an election, you wouldn't win a Republican primary.
Oh,
Now
yeah, you would
that's
never
maybe
get up
more.
there.
You wouldn't win a Republican primary against a neocon or a Republican who's pandering to the left
Right.
or alt right, or So I think that's what it is. What the word conservatism, in the same way that you're seeing happen to the word libertarianism now, is that it's losing its meaning, and
Hmm.
you have different people who identify as conservatives that are wildly different people with
Right.
wildly different positions on major issues.
Yeah.
I mean, you have conservatives that are saying, well, abortion is bad, but what can you do? And you have conservatives saying abortion is bad and will never support it. You have
Right.
conservatives saying all gun rights are an infringement, and you have conservatives saying, well, turn in your bump stocks.
Right.
So what's a conservative?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Are there really any real conservatives anymore? I think any real conservatives are actually libertarians, and any real genuine liberals in the classics are actually libertarians. So I think it's like Scott Horton always says: we out left the left and outright the right because we're principled and we're not centrist. We're not a centrist position. I just had this discussion this morning on a program I was on where we have a bunch of Republicans who vote for Kavanaugh. Like, not vote for him, but that's who they wanted. They really went to bat for this man, and put the rape allegations aside. The fact that he wrote the Patriot Act and the fact that he hates the Fourth Amendment tells you really all you need to know about this man. Like, I can't believe that this was even someone that was a candidate, but maybe it really comes down to, do people really think for themselves at all anymore? I mean, the answer seems to be no.
Well, you had made the comment that you have, Republicans going to meet and greets, and then when no one's listening, they come up and say, "Well, I'm actually a libertarian."
Right.
Well, they do that for two reasons. One, they're trying to get your support because they're politicians, and politicians don't do anything but try to win elections. And as soon as they win one, they're in the process of trying to win,
Right. And
re-election. That's what politicians do.
they try to get close to my girls. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. But in the second thing that the politician is trying to do is he's trying to signal. Let's just say, just for argument's sake, he is an older school conservative. He's trying to signal that he is one, but he's got to stay. He's got to stay nice with the GOP because he
Right.
wants to win, right? Like
Yeah.
because that's what politics is about. Politics isn't about policy. Politics isn't about culture. It isn't about principle. Politics is about winning.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I mean, why would you need to be engaged in politics unless you were trying to win? And really, why would you want to try to win that game unless it was to try to lord power over the people around you? I mean,
Right.
that's why I'm an anarchist.
Yeah. That's I talked to this person this morning about that the fact that I don't want to play the game, and I understand why people feel like they need to sometimes, like your Glenn Jacobs and other people who I really do believe the principles of libertarianism, but they get this idea that we have to change the system. Or I mean, if someone tells me I want to run for political office to stop these things from happening, I'm much more willing to go along with them for that than to try and change it from the inside. So if it's purely defensive, then okay, maybe you have an argument to be made. But if you actually want to change things from the inside, I don't think like we can't vote ourselves out of this. There's no you'll never vote yourself free, right? So I always like that position. Just seems to me you have to decide to be principled, and it's very difficult when you enter the political process to stay principled to anything, because that's part of it, is playing the game of give and take. And I think it does more damage to you than you do good in it.
Well, you can either stay principled or you can win. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
politics is about. But you had mentioned that comment, the quote. You can't spend yourself rich, you can't vote yourself free. And we've been talking a lot about the right side of the paradigm, but I mean it applies to the left as well. So your parties have a lowercase moniker, right? So Republicans are generally identified as conservative, Democrats are generally identified as liberal, and of course Libertarian Party should be libertarian. It's a little bit easier to identify, but somehow they still mess it up.
Yeah.
But the same thing applies to Democrats too, right? So they're going to be Democrats because they want to win. They want to get the war machines. They want to get the donations. They want to win elections. But running as a liberal is a tricky thing to do because free speech is liberal. That's a liberal principle. Right. And I don't mean convenient speech. I mean, like, I don't agree with what you say, sir, but I defend your death of the right to say it. If you want to call somebody a fucking retard on the college campus, that's what you can do, and no one right. And they cannot like it, and they cannot speak with you, and they cannot associate with you. Well, you would like to not be able to, but they force you to associate with people as well. But that's what liberalism was. And so again, a lot of your modern day liberals, they might go to one of those same meet and greets and come over to you and say, "Well, Sherry, I'm actually a liberal," but no, they're not. No, they're actually not. They're Democrats. They're not liberals. They're Democrats. Just like most people who are Republicans are not conservatives. They're Republicans. They've cast their gauntlet on which one mattered to them most: the philosophy or the party. And unfortunately, all your neighbors up and down the street, they're picking their parties, not their principles.
Right. Exactly. And I think we had this talk before about partisans. And when you're a partisan, that's what you're doing. You back your party. And it doesn't matter. And we see this, it's kind of spilled out into the general public, not just people involved in parties, but the general public, where I vote for that R beside it, or I vote for that D, or I vote for that L. Like they just assume that these people represent their best interests. And, we see this very clearly, you and I, and people like us, that conservatives, being Republicans, and liberals, being the Democrats, they're all just a bunch of socialists. Like, that's really what's going on. They're not, they're on the other end of the spectrum, and that the only way that Republicans maintain any small government ideals is if they hold themselves up to the Democrats, not against actual small government, not against freedom. They don't compare themselves to that. None of these people are concerned with what the freedom answer is. They're concerned with what the party answer, so they can stay in power. And I guess I get down to sometimes where I'm not sure if they're doing that just for the sake of power, or if they actually believe that they need to stay in power in order to do the most good. And I think maybe it's a little of both. Some of them are just recognize that they're out for the power, and then some of them actually believe their own rhetoric.
Well, another good quote you hear a lot of times is conservatism is just progressivism driving the speed limit. And what
Right?
what that means is that there's this ever march forward to the left. Everyone's going to the left. They may be going, some are going faster than others. Some can't go fast enough and some just can't stop themselves, but everyone's moving to the left. And even though I don't think of libertarianism as being a part of the left-right paradigm, just for the sake of that conversation, to your local
Right.
GOP candidate that's whispering, "I'm actually a libertarian," what he's trying to signal is I'm actually on the right. I understand that my colleagues on the right are really moving to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're further to the right than Bernie Sanders, but they're further to the left than the GOP was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, definitely 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So there's always this movement to the left. And, that also kind of coincides, you hear people complain a lot about pundits will talk about draconian cuts in federal budget spending. We
Right.
can't cut spending. Look at these draconian cuts in spending.
Right.
Well, people who actually understand realize they're not cutting spending at all.
Right.
The proposed cuts are only proposals in cuts of growth of spending.
Right.
So, for instance, if a budget has an automatic 5% increase built in year on year, and you decide to cut it to only an automatic 3% increase, the federal government will actually spend 3% more next year. So it's
Right.
not a cut at all. It's just a cut in the growth. But again, it goes to show you, if you are willing to challenge that money machine, you're willing to try to draw a line in the sand to that Leviathan, even the people on the right, you will quickly find are way far to the left of you.
You may get Assanged.
Yeah. You may.
And
Well, if you're lucky, you'll get unpersoned. If you're
Yeah.
unlucky, you're going to get Assange.
yeah, and I think that's interesting what you said, because it's not just that you hear that draconian cuts on CNN. You hear it on Fox too. It's just according to what they want the cut with. If it's the military budget being cut, oh, it's draconian to the Fox crowd. So I think that sort of leads into my next, statement, that it seems to me too that, you said that the Democrats and the Republicans are moving left, and I see that in the Libertarian Party as well, but not in the sense of, like, as libertarians, we don't necessarily move left or right because the philosophy is what it is, and we understand that each individual has rights that they retain, not groups of people. And so, but I do see this courting of the left in a certain way, instead of stating things in a way, that would teach libertarian principles. Say, we respect individual rights. So that would include homosexuals. That would include minorities. All of those things. But they really work hard, it seems like, to court the left with their own language. And not in a, like, I understand framing your argument, but I think the LP often really misses good opportunities to teach libertarianism. And I'm wondering why they do that. This is not the Libertarian Party of Harry Brown, and that's for sure.
Well, I used to be upset about things like that, but I'm really not anymore, because to me it's not a question. To me it's quite clear. They're trying to be a political party. They're not trying to teach anyone anything. They're trying to be a political party, which means they're trying to win.
Right.
And it's just strategy on their part. They've put their finger to the wind, and they've kind of seen that, well, it looks like things are sliding left, so we need to slide left to try to catch that spill, right? That people are going to slide left, and some of them are going to be disillusioned with whatever the demagogue of choice is. Maybe it's Elizabeth Warren, maybe it's Bernie Sanders, maybe it's AOC. And for the people who are disillusioned with them, but they've slid left, we need to be there to catch them and rope them in so that they can be card-carrying members, so we can raise money, so we can promote candidates. That's
Right.
what political parties do. And in just a vacuum with that information alone, I'm not surprised at all. That's what political parties do. The problem is that libertarianism isn't a political movement. It's a philosophical one.
Right. And I think that's where people get so confused. And I think when the Libertarian Party began to really want the power, that's where you kind of lose your way, because then you have to, and I know for me, semantically, I hate the term pragmatism. Like, I don't mind being pragmatic in certain ways, but pragmatism is the philosophy that the ends justifies the means, basically, that whatever's going to get you to your end is what you do because that works. And so it actually goes against being principled, because principles don't always get you the win. And so I think it's a little nuanced, and I probably should find a different way to say it because people don't understand me. I'm not saying don't be pragmatic in the way that, if a cop pulls you over, don't get your face blown off, right? Like, just get it done and move on so that you are alive to fight another day. But that's pragmatic to me. Pragmatism is, going along. And I think we would both agree that we would love to see, if there's going to be a Libertarian Party, and to most people, that's going to be the representation of the philosophy, just because it shares the same name, then we would love to see it actually be a platform for libertarian ideals. And I see more and more often that the people inside of it want to, and not all of them, but many of the people want to play the game. They want to, hey, win as a Republican or a Democrat in your district and then flip. And that was what people were saying to do. And people did that. And I was like, hey, this is a bad idea. I would never again vote for someone who did that, because that's just a straight up lie. And guess what? None of those candidates who did that won again the second time. So I think the problem is wanting a seat at the table rather than wanting to turn the table over and figure out something new. And so while I understand why the party was started and it would give a voice and a platform to these ideals, it really seems to have been co-opted by this. And I don't think there's evil intent in that. I think that people really believe that they can vote their way out of it. They can legislate their way out of this. And I don't think that that's possible. It seems to me that all the evidence seems to be that it's not.
Well, so you touched on a lot of things there, so let's take it one at a time. The first one is you made it a whole 30 minutes this episode before you made it about cops.
I know.
So bravo. I think that might be an all-time record for Miss Sherry.
Probably.
Yeah. The second thing is that, to me, so political parties are a non-starter, because you had said the Libertarian Party, you would want it to be about libertarians.
It's going to be around,
You want it to be a platform for libertarian ideals. That's not what political parties are. It's not it's not a Libertarian Party thing. Just like it's not a Democratic Party thing or a Republican Party. Political parties are platforms for politicians. They're not platforms for anything. They're platforms for politicians to get elected. And so that's why I've always said, look, I'm an anarchist. I'm not voting anyway. Ain't got a dog in the fight. But if you were going to vote, just go join the GOP and try to win your state race, try to win your local elections, try to maintain as much control as you can of your life as you can in your immediate surroundings as you can. The game is rigged. The Libertarian Party is never going to amount to anything. No other party is ever going to amount to anything. If it did, it'll be because the powers that be decide that that's the case, and one of the other parties will dissolve, so that basically it's just going to be a rename, right? So if that's your game, just go join the GOP and make, do your best. I mean, Ron Paul spent his whole life trying to do that. And yeah, you can say it didn't really work, but I mean, hey, at least the man had a vote in Congress for 30 years.
Right. And there were a lot of people brought to actual libertarianism through his runs. Yeah.
So, I mean, Thomas Massey's got a vote. Justin Amash has got a vote. Rand Paul's got a vote, but it's wasted because he's a statist. So, I mean, at least those people have something that amounts to a more measurable difference-making capability than you or I do, other than living our lives to our fullest. I mean, that's the only choice we have personally. And so for me, it's educating people. Of course, I want to teach people about libertarianism. Of course, I want to seek the remnant and share that brotherhood and sisterhood with like-minded folks. But it's helping those people who are still, they can't let it go. They just can't, because they can't come to the realization that their efforts and their work were for nothing. It's the same way, and I know that that sounds harsh, and there's going to be people listening right now saying, "Well, I campaigned for Gary Johnson, and it wasn't for nothing. We got 1.5% of the vote." Well, look, I'm not saying it's an easy realization to have, but this is the same type of thing we preach to people getting out of the military, is that, look, how many moms buried their sons?
Yeah.
And I don't want to disrespect their son, and I'm not trying to disrespect their family, but look, man, he died for nothing.
Right.
He died
It's
for
a hard,
nothing.
like they say, a tough pill to swallow.
He thought he was defending you and I, but he wasn't. He was defending the state's interest, and he died for it. And I wished he didn't, and I wish he was here with you, but that's what he died for. He
Right.
died for nothing. In the same way that if you were out there with a Bill Weld sticker on your shirt, you did that for nothing. It accomplished nothing.
Yep.
So you can be mad at me about that. You can be mad at the world about that. You can be mad at the system for that and the man and whatever you want to be mad about. But what I really hope you channel that anger into is more constructive ways to live a happier, more productive life for yourself.
Yeah.
And we'll let the chips fall where they may from
Yeah.
that point forward. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to condone anybody supporting a political party, because all that does is give a platform to politicians.
Right.
And really, what was the last politician you can think of that really spoke truth to power and made you feel alive? And I mean, look, I don't
Yeah.
worship at the altar of the state, so
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a politician.
Yeah. The last time that happened for me, I was still a neocon. Like that was the last time that happened for me.
Who was it though? But who was it though?
I'm ashamed to say it was W.
Well,
I
you
thought
should be ashamed. You
I
should
know.
be ashamed, but at least W ran on a campaign of, we're not gonna go around the world bombing everybody, and we're gonna
Right.
take care of home first. Like,
They all
even though
do,
that
though.
obviously didn't happen, and even though, surprise, he's a politician, at least that's what he said he was gonna do. But now the onus is on him. He's a fucking liar, right?
And they all run on that, really. They all run on peace. And then they all say, "Oh, well, this is a special circumstance in my position. Like we have a special circumstance, so and it's all just a lie. It's a front. They know people desire peace, and that's what they run on. I two things I wanted to touch on. One is I agree with you that, and I just told a friend of mine who wants to run for political office. I was like, man, if you really want to do something,
Yeah.
run in the GOP. Like, don't run as a libertarian. If you really feel, and this is his feel, this is me just talking to him as a friend and saying, if this is what you're going to do anyways, and you think you're going to change things from the inside, then why in the world would you run as a libertarian, especially in East Tennessee? That's just not, like, go ahead and use the billions of dollars they've spent on branding. Use the machine that they have behind them to get yourself in a position where you can really make change. Like, if you want to be effective, and they will have you, do it. Like, that's what you should, like, that's why Glenn Jacobs did what he did and won Knox County mayor by only 12 votes. But it's like, do that, because that, you already have that momentum behind you. And I know Libertarian Party people are going to hate hearing that. And it's not that I devalue them. I think I understand that they believe that they're doing what is the best thing. And you know what? Peace be on you. Like, you got to do what you feel is right. But I guess I just really came to the conclusion that, like Michael Malice says, you can't spend yourself wealthy and you cannot vote yourself free. You just can't do it. And so you can do some good things. Like, I'm not going to say everything that the libertarian, candidates and people in the party do is bad. There's a lot of good things, but everything still buttresses the system because they're playing within the system. So it makes you believe that you can change the system. And I just don't think that's true. I think it's a false reality. And then the other thing, you said people will be mad at you for saying it about the soldiers and that's really a sad, like, not the outside people that you would expect, the families and the soldiers, but other libertarians get mad at us for saying the things that have to be said. And I think for you and I both, it's the same. We have compassion for these people. Like, we do not want people dying. We care about them dying more than sometimes their own families want them to go over there because it builds them up. They feel like, oh, I've got a hero in the family. We don't want that for them. And so we say these things to try and help wake them up so that they don't join up in the first place. But the other libertarians get mad at us for saying it, and we can't win when it's because it's about winning. I think that proves your point.
Well, exactly. So something that Ron Paul said when he was on the Gold Standard just recently is he genuinely, I know I like to drop that little tagline in there, right?
It's coming out tomorrow, right? Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, it is. Tomorrow evening it's going to be streamed. Well, I don't know when this episode's coming out, so it might
mine
not
comes
be
out the day
tomorrow.
after yours. So,
okay.
But if you're listening the day after, go and find that.
Get in
episode.
a time machine. Go back to the night before at 7:00.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so the argument that Ron Paul made. Now, granted, politicians will say one thing and didn't do another. That's what politicians do. But he would make the argument that the peace candidate always wins. And that sounds weird because you think, well, wait a minute. I mean, when was the last time we had someone in office that was genuinely pro-peace? And look at how many people win re-election, even though they're still propagating the wars. But and so he understood that it's a hard argument to make, but he stands by that the peace candidate always wins. That when you're looking at who you're dealing with, whichever of the two candidates is the least hawkish in the general election, generally will win. So you look at the last election. Of course, Trump by no means is a peace candidate. We're still in Syria, we're still in Iraq, we're still in Afghanistan. However, compared to Hillary Clinton, the dude's a fucking dove, right? I mean, compared to World War III yourself.
Walking World War III.
Yeah, exactly. You think back to Obama Romney or Obama McCain. I mean, definitely Obama McCain. Of course, Obama won the Peace Prize, which is a total joke because he was absolutely a war candidate, doing more drone strikes than any of his predecessors. However, if you were looking purely in the vacuum of McCain versus Obama, yeah, he probably was the peace candidate, at least at the time. His rhetoric reflected wanting to scale back interventions in the Middle East. Yeah, I mean, of course, when we say scale back, we mean zero, not a single American soldier on the ground. They mean withdraw 100 guys. But still, that's a far cry from where McCain was, who was bomb Iran, as he was so famously quoted. So again, I definitely see it. I definitely see the argument that the peace candidate always wins. But to kind of circle that back around to political parties and politics in general is political parties support politicians. And if the peace candidate always wins, then do I say things that would not be good sound bites to come out of my mouth if I was trying to win an election? Of course, I absolutely do. But I'm not trying to win an election. I'm trying to be pro-peace.
Right.
I'm trying to be unapologetically anti-war and unapologetically libertarian.
Yeah.
That doesn't coincide with winning any elections, but it does coincide with my principles. And so I'm absolutely going to take people to task when they don't reflect those principles. And I'm not going to look for a politician to represent me.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that sometimes causes this animosity within the party between anarchists and libertarians, or just in libertarianism in general. You have like party people who are really concerned with winning elections, and they're talking to anarchists who are not. And therefore, there's this clash because you really you don't have a common ground to meet on, because like you would say, we say things because we believe them and they're the right thing. And we want the wars to stop. We want the state predation on the individual to stop. We want to end that. And so it's not about playing nice and seeing what you can get. It's about maybe we lose. Maybe we keep losing. But damn it, we're going to say the right thing. We're not going to play your stupid game, and we're not going to kowtow to you and pretend like we have any influence with you, because we know we do not. We know that the only thing you want from us is our compliance. And if we can play the game, it makes us compliant. So I think, that's sometimes why there's so much animosity at times, because we don't want to win. And another thing that you had said reminded me of, you said the peace candidate always wins, per Ron Paul. And I think that's true, because I know a lot of libertarians personally who, when Bernie Sanders was running, they supported Bernie Sanders. And the reason was he was anti-war. He was clearly anti-war. Now, that's not saying it was one of his priorities. It's way down his list, but at least he is. And so I think this is why you have like a Tulsi Gabbard,
Yes.
That is making so like a lot of libertarians are talking about her because she's anti-war. This is
Hmm.
going to ruin the GOP in their stance if they don't catch on the clue train, which I'm surprised they haven't already. I mean, not that I want them to. Like I don't want any of them to win anything, but I don't know that Tulsi Gabbard is who. I mean, I wouldn't want any of them running it, but is she really going to be better than whoever the GOP might put up? Which I get at this point is going to be Trump, but it's an
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
look at things.
yeah. I mean, Trump's going to win in 2020.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's such a foregone conclusion because the Democrats are really pushing the LP for who's the biggest dumpster fire. Like they really are. Um, and to your point about Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard, I actually talked about her with Lou Rockwell and Ron Paul, and they both kind of had the same opinion, which was, I mean, obviously she's got the pretty wacko, commie domestic policy ideas, but she is very forthright with her anti-war, anti-imperial stance,
Mm-hmm.
and you already see that is making her an unperson. You're already seeing the little things where they'll show Democratic hopefuls in a poll, and if she polled at 17%, they'll show all the names on screen except for hers. And if you add up all the numbers, it comes out to 83%. And you're like,
Wow.
wait a minute, that's not 100. That doesn't make any
What are
sense.
they missing?
But so they're doing the same thing to her that they did to Ron Paul, and it's particularly telling too. Because you think about this, Tulsi is from Hawaii. She served in the military. Of course, she's an articulate lady. I mean, she's pretty attractive. She's very well spoken. I mean, she's got a lot of the lefty social and domestic boxes checked. You would think that this in another like universe, this is a dream candidate for the Democratic Party, right? Like this is Elizabeth Warren, but not an old white liar, right? Who's anti-war.
Right.
But she will get no traction, and she'll get no traction because they will erase her from history. That is what they're doing, it literally before our eyes.
Right.
And it is because she only doesn't check one box, and that one box is not supporting the warfare state.
Right.
It goes to show you how much more important that is to the status quo than anything else.
Right. It's because it's the lifeblood of the state. War is how they keep growing and they keep, fear is such a strong motivator for people. And
Mhm.
they've, the state has learned to use it masterfully. And, you see this where people should agree, but because one calls themselves a Democrat and one calls themselves a Republican, they look at each other and say, we're not alike at all. But people standing outside of that go, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, you're exactly alike. You just don't see it. And they can keep this. I think there's the foreign war aspect, but I think there's also the domestic war aspect. And the domestic war being things that are social issues like abortion, like gay marriage. People are still arguing about that, but it's a done deal. Like, it's done. Cannabis, these kinds of cultural things, but they've become the battleground of the intra-country life. And I think it's really telling, because I think the fear of the other is what drives the Republicans to vote Republican and the Democrats to vote Democrat, and that they need your fear, and they need you to stay in a constant state of fear so that you're not thinking properly. And one of my favorite quotes ever is "Fear is the mind killer" from Dune, and it's so true. It's like the deer in the headlights. When you're faced with this thing coming at you, you often freeze and you don't know what to do, and then you just find yourself running from what you might be an answer to what might be an answer, and you just get yourself in worse trouble.
Well, I wanted to say really quick before we get too far away from it. We were talking earlier about like assuming you're going to be involved in the system, assuming you're going to be politically involved, like what's the strategy for success? Now, granted, Ron Paul's an outlier, right? Like there's only one Ron Paul, and there's been a whole hell of a lot of people who never reached the level of genuine political success that Ron did. Now, granted, he ran for president and didn't win. Didn't really. I mean, let's be honest, he didn't really have a chance to win against the Leviathan. But he was a congressman for decades, and not only that, he was a Republican congressman for decades. And now let's think about this for a second. He wasn't talking about fiddling around with the tax code or shifting a little bit of power from the feds back to the states as it regards to healthcare or education or whatever. No, he was talking about ending the Fed, abolishing Department of Education, abolishing the IRS, getting rid of the income tax. I mean, that's pretty radical stuff. And he did it while running as a Republican. And so then the question really that I pose to all those statists out there who thinks they're libertarians is let's answer this one question. What is more likely to happen? Is it more likely that you can have the type of principles that I just talked about Ron having, wanting to just wholesale chop things out of the block and win as a Republican? Or is it more likely to win as a libertarian with anything, with any policy you can think of, with any platform you can think of, cater to the left, cater to the right? I don't care who you cater to. Can you win as a libertarian on the national level? And I'm talking about national level, by the way. I don't care about your constable. Just get off of it. I'm talking about, can you be in the House, the Senate, or the executive as a libertarian on absolutely any platform at all, or win as a Republican while wanting to do the things I just listed? To me, it's an obvious no-brainer, and we have real-world experience just running as a major party candidate is the way to go.
And even
and of course you have the more common examples. I mean, I like Massey, I like Amash. I wouldn't. I mean, look, there's no one can touch libertarian Jesus Ron Paul. But I mean, they're pretty good. Massey's great, and he's geographically closer to us. But Amash is good too.
Yeah.
And I mean, those guys are running as Republicans and they're winning. So I mean, tell me again, which of those, if those are the only two options, literally plug and play platform libertarian or hardcore, whatever you want to call it, conservative, constitutionalist, libertarian, Republican, which one's more likely to win an actual election? To me, it's no.
It's I think the Republican or the Libertarian Party is really trying to reinvent the wheel, and they're already going to be closed out by the Republicans and the Democrats when they really could. Not that I don't know why it is that there seems to be more kinship often between the right and libertarians. And I think it has something to do with the fact that the left, even though we agree with them on many social issues, they don't want our agreement. They want our lockstep. They want to control people in a lockstep way. And so libertarians don't like to be controlled, right? In general. And I think the Republicans fancy themselves as lovers of liberty, so they're more likely to be kinder to libertarians. So I think that's the reason. I don't think it's that. I heard someone who was a leftist one time say, you're basically just Republicans and that's why they love you. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the case. And so I've been thinking about why that is, like, yeah, why they love us. But I mean, in a way they do. They say, I'm really libertarian, but it's because they fancy themselves as freedom lovers, when we know they're really not. Like, they don't really believe it. It's all mental assent to the ideals of freedom. And I think that I say it so often, but that quote by W, where he said we have to suspend free market principles in order to save the free market, that is republicanism today in a nutshell. Like, everything is, well, we have to put aside our principles and do this. And they're not principles.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they think that what we have now is the free market. They actually think that. Well, there's something to be said about there's the bumper sticker slogans that the GOP likes to use. And in some ways, of course, I don't think they're intellectually aware enough to be jealous. But if they were, they would be jealous because the hardcore libertarian actually does the things on their bumper sticker. Whereas they only say the things until it gets inconvenient.
Yeah, I told a particular candidate once that was a Republican, I said, all those things you claim to believe, we actually believe those things. Like, that's the difference between us. He's like, what? Well, what's the difference? And I was like, the things you claim to believe, we actually believe them. He didn't like that answer too much, but it's honest. Like, it is honest. Yeah. And so I think we've had a fascinating conversation, and I knew we would. Just every time, I'm always thinking when we get on the phone together, I'm like, damn, I need to just record this and slap my intro on it and do this because I think, two thinking people, which I count myself thinking most of the time, two thinking people can really analyze the world in an interesting way that, especially from our position as libertarian anarchists, that is interesting and maybe will shed some light on some of the things that, because I know that, you and sometimes myself are seen as being pretty hard on the LP, even though I have a lot of friends in the LP and I still do things with them. Like I went to the Belly of the Beast at the State House here with them not long ago. Because I want to have these experiences. I wanted to confront one of the politicians actually about some things he had been doing, and I got to do that, which was awesome.
So you wanted to get shot?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of nice about it, but I did trap him. I asked him about, what are his principles in governance and what he believes about individual rights. And then I said, well, doesn't this bill that you're proposing go against everything, all of your principles? And he's like, well, no, blah, blah, blah. Like I loved doing that. That was really fun. But I think it's not that we hate people. It's that we see this, well, okay, maybe it's not that I don't hate people. I won't speak for you, Alan. But you're not trying to make enemies, but we see it. Okay, I'm not trying to make enemies, but I see it as this. I'll just speak for me. I see it as this. It needs to be said. Like, I want you to be successful too. I want you to, like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to spend your life's time and energy and effort into politics of all things, then I want you to be successful and I want you to actually be able to accomplish something. It may not be overturning the government, but if you're going to work in politics, at least have the right outlook of, I'm just going to go up there to say no. I'm just going to go up there to say no to everything. But they've, like many of them, not all of them, many of them have the idea that there can be a libertarian president. And I just don't believe that. And it's not that I hate you or that I hate, people not you, those people in the party. I just would love to see you be more effectual with your time, and to have real successes in your life. Like I want that for people who are libertarians. I want them to succeed and to be the kind of people that in your community, they go, that guy's pretty cool and he's a libertarian. Maybe I'll check that out. He's successful or whatever, but it doesn't seem to bear out so much when you get into real life.
I've decided to just go full collapsitarian. I think I'm going to run on the platform of quadrupling the federal budget,
right?
And just let the whole thing collapse under its own weight.
Yeah, you're taking the Daniel Blanchett approach to my producer.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, and someday,
where's my $1,000 a month? God damn it!
Right? Yeah, exactly. There's so many ways we could go with this, but I did want to ask you on our show last night, Postcards from Somalia. We didn't get to talk about the one aspect of the Notre Dame, the burning, and that was that some people were saying maybe it was the yellow vest protesters, and I thought, oh my goodness, if that's like. That would be the perfect thing for the French state to do, to turn sentiment against the yellow vest protesters. But I mean, I don't think that's what did it, but we didn't get to talk about that. I wanted to get your opinion on that.
By absolutely every account, it's probably an accident that has to do with renovations that are going on. By the way, Notre Dame plays football. Notre Dame burnt.
Right, Notre Dame.
A little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
I actually saw somebody post earlier today that they just posted RIP and they had a picture of like the Fighting Irish logo, So that's just a spicy level of disrespect is what I like.
Which I think is kind of sad. I mean,
but I think you're selling the French short. Look, if they're gonna start some sort of wild conspiracy that serves their purposes, why stop with the yellow vest? Just say the Muslims did it. All those Muslim immigrants burnt down Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, I have heard people say that, but I think the French government really wants to deal with the yellow vest protesters right now. They really want that to stop. And while I don't agree with
Well, then they should stop being crazy socialists. But then again,
right,
the yellow vests
our
have to stop
socialists
being
too.
socialists too.
Yeah, I that's what I always tell people. Like they'll ask me, "How do you feel about the yellow vest protesters?" I'm like, in sentiment of actually getting out there and doing something. Okay, I'm with you. I agree with them, but their answer to these bad things the government is doing is more government. So I think they've taken a wrong turn somewhere. But maybe it's a lesson to the American public that we should get off our ass occasionally, and our politicians should be afraid of us. Like they should have a healthy fear of the American public, and they do not. And the reason is
No.
because we're too lazy to do anything about it.
Well, a phrase that I say a lot of times is that people have to be mad at the right people for the right reasons. And I've even seen some people make the statement that, well, you don't see anything like the yellow vest happening here. Well, yeah, we did. Do you not remember Occupy Wall Street? We
Yeah, that's true.
absolutely saw something very similar to the yellow vest demonstrations
Bunch of
in this
socialists as
country.
well.
But exactly to the point. So you had a big crowd of angry people marching on Washington. But here's the two things that came of that. First of all, they have every right to be upset. And or just
Yeah.
like talking to millennials in general. Is the world screwed up and
Right.
millennials are in for a bad time? Of course, and they should be upset. But you got to be upset at the right people. And voting in a democratic socialist is pretty much the exact opposite thing you need to do to
Right.
make the world a better place. And the second thing is okay, well, let's take stock. Let's take stock of the yellow vest now, which maybe it's a little early because it's still actively ongoing. But let's take stock of Occupy Wall Street. So what came of it? Absolutely nothing.
Pretty much, unfortunately. I read the Occupy Wall Street platform. They had all their lists of things, and a lot of those things I agreed with. Like honestly, I agreed that there's problems with Wall Street and the financial situation, and but they blame it on capitalism. Which we parse that out, but they don't get it. They don't get that the real way to fix government problems is to get rid of the government. Like that's really what you need to do. And I think some of those people became anarchists. And that's the good thing I see that came out of that movement. But as a whole, I think it's just become a running joke in the mainstream. And but you have to respect their willingness to get out and do something. And I'm not out there doing that. I don't know how to kick that off and make that happen. But I think for me, I always try to think, well, I'm doing what I can do, and that's talking to people as much as I can talk to people, and having the show. And I'm sure people get tired of hearing me talk about this stuff. I know my kids do. My kids are always like, "Is this again, Mom? Really? Like, can we just sit and watch the show without hearing about?" Like, okay, sorry, but it's because I'm passionate about it, and I think that if people could get to that point, we'd really see a difference in the world. But I'm also of the opinion, as I think you are, that the best we are going to be able to do is try and be successful and be wealthy enough that the laws don't matter as much to us, and that we can get out when we need to get out.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate to say. I hate to say that because I don't want to do that. But my fellow man sometimes just seems to be leaving me no choice. They want this sort of enslavement. They want to look good. Like in Glaucon, it's better to look good than to be good. They want to look like they are altruistic. They don't want to be what would really be altruistic, which is being like, leave people alone, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. But that's too hard because it doesn't virtue signal to everyone else how good they are and how great they are. So
Yeah.
Any final words before,
So-
do you need
so
a
here's-
cigarette before the firing line?
Yeah. So here's what you do. You sell a false bill of goods. You make all the money you can, and then when Twitter and Facebook come to delete your page, you move to Mexico.
I mean,
That's it.
sounds like a plan. I guess
Yeah, I
told
mean
people,
that's what I'm actively pursuing as we speak.
yeah, I told my kids, I made the mistake of mentioning to my kids, there's a lot of voluntarists down in Acapulco, and I think I might like to move there someday. And so now they make fun of me all the time. You're going to move to Mexico now, Mom? Like maybe, and I'm going to leave your ass here. But
Yes,
So
I believe that happened.
that happened already. Uh, to wrap things up, um, just tell people where they can find you, Alan, and what you're up to these days.
Well, of course, they can find my flagship show, which is The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. They can get us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGSAlanMosley. Twitter is at Alan M. Mosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You can just go to our website, which is thegoldstandardpodcast.com, where I think, what is this? We're in the middle of April, so we're about 4 months away from ending season 2.
Well,
We'll have to do something special.
extravaganza.
Well, we ended season 1 with Tom Woods, but we've already had Ron Paul, so
Yeah.
that can't be the end of season 2. It's probably going to be like
Very voluntary.
it's probably going to be you and me and Mike, and we're probably just going to bitch.
Right. I mean, that's what we really enjoy doing, right?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much part and parcel with our entire network.
Yeah.
So they can get the Gold Standard weekly at the addresses listed previously. You can also get Sports Ball, which airs live every Monday at 2 Central, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, as well as Postcards from Somalia, which airs on Mondays at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Which, by the way, if you're not being a part of the live streams, you're really just not even a real libertarian at this point. I mean, it's just the best way for us to not only reach people, but also to like be actively involved. Because as I always say, drop in on social media, let us know what you think, so we can ban you really quick.
Right.
And then, how else can we best seek the remnant if it's not you getting into the chat channel when I'm streaming to say, Alan, you suck, and me saying ban Sherry? That if that's not seeking the remnant, then I don't think we need them.
Yeah, and I would like to remind people, because I think I didn't realize this before I started podcasting and being part of shows and things, that every comment, every like, every share is a big help to us. So if you can,
It is.
You can comment, like, and share. We love you forever, because it's so hard. That Facebook algorithm is so hard on our shows. Y'all wouldn't believe it. Like, Alan's got the metrics to prove it. The banning, the shadow banning, all that. Like, you just wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get outside of that bubble. And even to people that say, hey, I want to see your stuff. I've liked it. And I'm wanting to see it. I've put you on see first, and they still don't see the notifications. They still don't get it. Like, so remember that if there's a program out there you like, support them, not only monetarily if you can, but with your shares and your likes and your comments. Those go a long way.
All right. So real talk, here's what you do. You go to patreon.com/TGSAlanMosley. Really just go to any website and then type in TGSAlanMosley, see what comes up. But if you do that at Patreon, it'll work. And then you go in there in the blank and you type 999-999-99. And then you put in your card information, then you hit enter.
Yeah.
And then I will send you a note that says, hey, thanks, man.
I'll take a lot less than that. You can send me $5. I'll be happy. Well, that said, thank you for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate it. I hope you've found something illuminating from our conversation.
No, I've just alienated your entire audience.
Yeah, no,
that's fine. They weren't libertarians anyway.
I have an awesome audience, I have to say. Full of people who often disagree with me, but are, respectful and principled, and they're trying to do what they think is best too. So, anyways, that said, thanks guys for watching, and you can also go to Sherry Voluntary Patreon if you'd like, and throw me some love that way. But until next time, peace.